Hey there, Christian Framhertz, Tribeca Trade Group with your end of day recap for Monday. And once again, not a lot of big movement out of the indices. The S&P, but there was some interesting things going on here. S&P basically flat on the day. Kind of, these. I don't want to read too much into these candles, but long wick here, long wick here. Let's see what we get tomorrow. Qs were kind of asleep all day long. They actually finished not exactly on the highs. They actually came in right at the end of the day, but they definitely came back from being down about 20 basis points to finish just barely positive. The real story was small caps. Small caps, real nice performance today, and again, I'm kind of looking for this as I talked about in the weekend TTG newsletter. I'm looking for the small caps which have not really participated in that second leg higher like S&P and the Qs to possibly take out this 140.60 level. And I think there's a trade involved if we can do that. So I may be a little bit late by waiting for that move, but real nice performance on a day where S&P Qs were basically flat. Nice outperformance there in small caps. So a couple of things I wanted to touch upon today, and then we'll go over today's unusual option activity. Real nice hold today by energy names. Once again, crude, which is the pattern. Crude. We look at this in the morning, and I said it again. It's like deja vu over and over again, quoting Mr. Yogi Berra. But it seems like we've had this a few days now, where in the morning it looks like it's a big green bar that's developing, and I say it. The closing print is the most important. We don't know what we're going to get. The crude cannot hang on to the early gains. So you come in the morning, you see crude up. You look at the candle. It's got a nice body, and then it completely fades. So where do we finish? Basically flat on the day. So we still can't really tell what's going to happen here in crude, whether it's going to break up, break down. We don't know yet. You can speculate any way you want. One thing for sure, if you look at the energy plays XOP, XLE, right on the 200-day moving average, that's that white line on my chart. And they held here for the time being. So a really kind of interesting. XLE looks a little bit better, had a little bit better of a day. Didn't close on the highs, but almost 1%. I think OIH actually finished the best, and that's been a bit stronger. You can see it didn't actually get down to the 200-day moving average, but and a little bit better performance here, up 1.9%. One of the traders took some Halliburton, I believe, today as starting a long today. But nice big trade in the XLE ETF. I looked, I don't think this was tied to stock. 12,000 April 73 calls. Just kind of interesting where they're doing that right at the 200-day moving average. That's a $1.5 million trade. And we've been seeing a little bit of buying in XOP as well. There was an XOP order as well today. Those are the March 40 calls that went up. 10,000 of those. That's, this little bit of a smaller price for those calls, a little bit further out of the money, but still a $345,000 bet. So the XLE I think is a bit more notable, but this flow has been happening for the last couple days now. It actually looks like some of these puts may have been sold. The 36, 35 put spread may have been sold there as well. Possibly a bull put spread. But I think on Friday we also saw some calls go up in the XOP ETF as well. So there's some bottom feeding going on, possibly thinking that the 200-day moving average will hold. Let's talk about the bad next, and then we'll talk about the real good, the real nice performer of the day. But gold miners, woof, on heavy volume. Look out, GDX. You think GDX was bad? 5.3%. Take a look at GDXJ. Wow. And look at the volume on GDXJ confirming the move down. We hear this all the time, which is incorrectly quoted in the financial media on TV talking about, especially like with the averages where they say, oh, well, I don't like this move up here because it's low volume. That's perfect. Low volume is what you want to see on a grind higher. When you see high volume, you're going to get a turn. Hence this, all of a sudden big volume. So these guys who are, I hate to say CNBC because it's not CNBC's fault, but you have these guys on CNBC all the time who talk about, oh, I don't like this move up here. There's low volume. You're going to see low volume. You're going to see big volume on the turns. And here's a good example: GDXJ. just barely hanging on to the 200-day moving average here the last week. This is something that I've been profiling, saying, hey, I don't know what's going to happen here. Either it's going to start to move a little bit away from the 200-day moving average, or it's going to fail. Well, it just looked like it failed pretty hard today. And what's interesting is gold really didn't take that much of a tumble today. We saw the same thing late on Friday. I guess Friday was a little bit of a warning signal. If I go to the 5-minute chart here, you could see all this volume pick up, by the way. Oops, sorry about that. Well, I guess it's kind of distorted because we saw this volume here, but let me just zoom in here. You should be able to see it. You can see this start to pick up around 2 o'clock today, and look at the volume just escalate here towards the end of the day. Again, it's this last bar is throwing it off, but you could see the volume was escalating higher and higher. So either somebody had a big trade to do on the close and somebody was front running it a little bit. That does happen from time to time. Somebody knows that there's a really large order that has to take place on the close, and then they just front run it all day long. So that could have been it, or just somebody liquidating along here. But so that's what you don't want to see, in the indices. Just a good example again of the knuckleheads on CNBC. Like, I want to see bigger volume. You'll see bigger volume on a turn. Same thing on the lows. When you see a move from the lows, you see volume confirm it, but not when you're in trend and not when you're moving up. You don't want to see. Again, in my opinion, you don't want to see high volume because that signifies that a turn is happening, just like we saw today in GDXJ. So big move down. That gold junior gold miners, which I like to call gold miners on steroids, down almost 10% on the day. Look out. So that is a big move, and you go to gold and you just didn't really see a big move down in gold. It did start higher on the day, but completely got knocked out. What did silver end up doing? Silver ended up down on the day. Looked great in the beginning of the day. I am long silver here and above the 200-day moving average. I started to get all excited this morning today because it broke value. And then we had a reversal bar, and then the break back below value told you that it was a failure for the day. So we'll have to keep an eye on silver. It is still above the 200-day moving average. I see a lot of people talking about that, but possible reversal bar, but still above the yellow period, the yellow line, the 5-period exponential moving average. I don't think anything really majorly lost here in SLV other than the upside momentum today. So the star performer of the day. Biotech, my goodness, flip. I don't know. Maybe somebody rotated out of gold miners and into into biotech. That would be an interesting pair trade. But I've talked about this, and I got a little bit discouraged. I either mentioned this in one of last week's late in the week video or this weekend's video, talking about biotech reached where it did previously back in October and failed. And I said, well, I'm still kind of holding out a shot here, or holding out for, I guess, a little hope in biotech that it's going to that it was going to consolidate here a little bit and stay above the 20-period exponential moving average. And I mentioned that, I believe it was this weekend's video. I said, it's still got a chance. It did hold the 20-period exponential moving average, but I wasn't expecting a move like this today. Partially, this could have to do with Trump meeting with some of the healthcare CEOs. It doesn't look like there's anything he's really going to be looking to come down on them. It seems like he's making nicey nice with them. So I've been talking about really where the moves, besides today and the strong move up 4.8% today, besides this move today, what's really been showing the strength is, XLV. I can't type this late. It's just been on a 45 degree angle up and to the right. And the reference that I've been talking about is we saw really nice ETF inflows into healthcare. I actually pointed out the PPH ETF on Twitter last weekend, actually showing some inflows as well. So that's straight pharma. But the main tell for XLV in healthcare was 2 weeks ago Man, I really cannot type. 2 weeks ago, we saw big ETF inflows, and we saw also big call buying in the XLV out of the money March calls, which were purchased for about between. They went in a couple days. One day they bought them for 19 and a half cents. Another day they bought them, I believe, for 20 cents. Those are now marking for much more than a double now at this point. Well around 45 cents, I believe. I took a handful of those. That's how I know that. I wish I would have taken a little bit more than that, but it was a pretty far out of the money play in that XLV trade. But what a great signal that we caught in the trading room. So this is now. I thought it would actually kind of digest some of this move here at this purple line at the VPOC, but it looks like it wants a little bit more for the time being. I'm pretty overbought now. In terms of unusual option activity, what did we see right off the get-go was both AMD and NVIDIA call buying. AMD up 7.6%. This was a nice trade in the TTG room. I took some July calls. I'm already long stock in AMD, but we started to see, which has been a pattern of call buying, call buying, call buying, and more call buying throughout the day, aggressive call buying, and that's exactly what we saw today. They just started to hammer. The April 1, 16 calls. Just and as well as the March calls as well. You actually saw some January 20 calls as well. So, when this starts to happen, it's a good idea to get on board when they start to really go after the AMD just several times of the day, not just one order of 1,000, but they just continue to do it like every 15 minutes or every half hour, which is what we saw the first hour and a half of the day, and then NVDA, which also had a nice day, was up at one point a little bit over 3%, but looks like closed 2.9%. Different looking chart here after last week. It still has some work to do. It's still underneath the 5-period exponential moving average. So all we've really done is retraced some of that big red day last week. It really needs to get up to this gap and see if it can fill the gap, but it's not there yet. First things first, which is good, is it did hold the bottom of value. So really a thin value area for February. We're going to be in March. So really the bogey, I would say, for March, and this is still developing. We got one more day, so this level is going to change. But right now 106.71. And again, once we get into March, I'll have a firm level for what to watch based on the value area. But we want to see this name get into value for March. That would be a nice save, I would say, after those double downgrades that it got last week. Other names that were interesting this morning, or I should say throughout the day, on a day where the indices, the SPY and the Qs didn't move too much. We talked about small caps, big outperformance. We saw some trip calls being purchased into Priceline. That should do pretty well. Priceline had really good numbers. They had light guidance for Priceline, but then they came out and said that it has something to do with perhaps a holiday in there. Maybe the quarters of short a few days or something like that because of a holiday. But it looked like the guidance was pretty weak. But the quarter that they came out and reported very strong. I took a small earnings trade. I'm long the weekly the 1670 70 and a half. So I need Priceline to stay above 1675, not a half, 1675 tomorrow, and I'll have a nice little winner for earnings trade tomorrow in Priceline. So trip calls were purchased going into that. PAH calls, which I believe they report tomorrow. This trade was, I would say, very notable for the day. Another big Blackstone call buyer going out to January 19. I had the date. I put it in the trading room earlier. I think it was December 7th of last year when they started to go after these January calls, the January 2019 calls. They went after repetitively January 2019 30 calls. They also went after a number of other strikes and maturities back in December of last year. And it's been pretty quiet the last couple of weeks. They haven't really come back and bought more. It's been more of piecemeal in terms of BX and same thing with KKR. But big trade. This trade I think was around 2 million notional. It was a million bucks. So $1 million. Again, not this January, but next January. 25 calls that went up. So I'm long a little bit of the January 30s. I've been long these since the first ones came in December. They haven't really done too much. I was loaded up on Blackstone and KKR about 2 months ago and made some really nice money on it. And I left a small piece of this Blackstone position, and it hasn't done much since there hasn't been any call buyers. But I think definitely a name to keep an eye on. If you look at the daily chart, you will see that we're to the bottom of value and nice support here. So, a little bit of a sell signal here. So it's kind of taking, buying on the dip here, still above the 200-day moving average. But I would watch, which again, we're going to have a new value area here in a day. But nice hold of the 2016 bottom of value. So I looked at this chart, and since I was already long Blackstone, I just made it into a bigger trade today. And I've kind of been waiting for those buyers to come back in this name. So that was one, and there was a couple other trades that caught my eye today. Western Digital, repeat call buying in Western Digital, WDC, more short dated. These were March calls. Again, you look at this chart as well, and you're not buying on the highs here either. It's in the value area, and you could kind of see it turn around here a bit. Two green bars here. So for a name that after earnings gapped up to 80, you're buying it basically down $4 from the highs here. So I like that trade. Unfortunately, it is short dated, so I may want to consider something a little bit further out. Maybe there's a catalyst that they're looking at for March calls. And then a couple other trades. Where's the other one? SUM. If you're looking for a infrastructure play, this SUM is one of those names like what's the other name? US Concrete, I believe, USCR, uh, which makes concrete. So I actually put a small trade on today in SUM today. I looked at this chart as well. I figured, hey, it's pretty far off the highs. If you also zoom out here, it's kind of been going sideways for a while. So, maybe this thing wants to take another leg higher. I would really wait for a break possibly of 24.96, which is less than $1 away for confirmation. But I started a position today seeing that aggressive call buyer come in. Couple other things that I thought we covered: AMD, Nvidia, Facebook. There was a call buyer. Oh, nice call, nice. Not this week, but next week, call buyer in Caterpillar that came in. Don't let the contract size disguise the trade. This was for like $2, I believe, the price of this. So this was a decent sized trade. I did not take this one, unfortunately. I looked at it. I remember, Caterpillar was very weak last week, maybe a little bit of a overreaction, somebody was thinking. So they bought next week's call. It was pretty expensive, 228, and I kind of said, hey, let me wait to see if another call buyer does come in. There was a little bit that came in. It wasn't that big of a move in Caterpillar, so I don't think you really missed that much if you missed this trade today. It was up 2%. Nice move there right at the close, but you could see, this is basically where the first call buyer came in, a little bit shy of 10 o'clock, and then they also bought some close to the highs. So you really didn't miss too much. Maybe a name to watch for tomorrow, but if you didn't take the trade like me, you missed a very small winner. But still, that was definitely an aggressive buy. A couple other names that there's another name, VMC, also KAR, which we've been seeing some buying in this space. This is another name that does auctions. What was the name that we saw last week that I made some money on? Not AutoZone. But was it KMX was a nice winner for me last week. I don't have anything left in that position. Took that timed that one pretty well, so nice winner. But another one of these names. This is an car auction company, seeing a call buyer as well. So that's it. We'll see how tomorrow shapes up. We have the State of the Union tomorrow night, so it could be one of those grinding days. I don't know if we're really going to get that much. I think everybody's kind of waiting to see what's going to be said. I think it's really just going to be more of the same and more of a, more. I think people are looking for more clarity about the tax plan, about the repeal of Obamacare. the border tax. I mean, there's certainly a number of topics that could be, but I don't think we're going to get anything that granular about that. So, but we'll wait and see. Maybe the market might get held up a little bit by that tomorrow, but we'll see. A couple other things. Oh, sorry, this video is a little bit longer. Amazon. I thought Amazon was interesting today. You look at some of the. You start to take a look at some of the hourly value areas, and this got into the value area today but completely stalled out here. So shooting star candle came all the way back to the breakout point, but watch this tomorrow. If it holds the bottom of value, it may end up being a nice day trade for tomorrow. So I'll leave it there for tonight's video. Thank you for watching the video, and have a great evening. Thank you.